Wonderful, wonderful. Good morning and welcome to CSL Denver, a place, a space, and a face of love, a spiritual community teaching ancient wisdom and utilizing principles that will empower our lives and the lives of others. And I just love that song, I'll Fly Away, because that's what we are looking to do here at CSL Denver, is to give you the wings spiritually, physically, emotionally, and mentally to fly away, to fly above anything that may be holding you down. Now, as we continue this month's theme, this is how you do it. I want to pause for a minute because we've come to that place in the road where we're beginning to realize, at least hopefully we're beginning to realize, that regardless of our best intentions and our best efforts and our stick-to-itiveness and all those things about how we work or how we get things done, we're getting to see that maybe I can't do it all by myself. I have to let go. I have to get the use and help of others. And so with that in mind, today, the topic is, let me tell you something good. Let me tell you something good. You see, because we share a profound truth that the divine intelligence is within each and every one of us. We all have that spark of divinity, that light of the divine that allows us to be more than we ever thought we could be. But if you forget that and nobody tells you some good news or tell you something good, it's easy to forget. It's easy to forget. And so this truth that is within each and every one of us has the power to transform our lives. It has the power for us to ignite a spirit, a light, a fire in someone else to transform their lives. But you got to know, there was a song once by a group called Rufus in the 70s said, "Tell me something good. Tell me something good." so that I can wake up to a presence that is always available. So I can wake up to a love that allows me to move beyond anything. God, it said that God's love and wisdom surpasses anything that you can imagine. Anything that you can imagine. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I can imagine some pretty crazy things. And it's that ability to allow the God-given wisdom that surpasses all understanding. Because I've tried it. I tried to put God on the side one time. I just did it once. I didn't do it twice. I did it once. Because I figured out that my little A to B gets stuck going back and forth to A to B, A to B, A to B. And I can't move beyond my logical mind. But see, God's understanding, God's wisdom moves beyond all understanding. And when we can lean on that, when we can study that and depend on that, or learn to depend on that, because I had to learn it. I thought I could, think my way out of a paper bag. It didn't work. But when I allow God's wisdom to flow through me, to allow me to find those moments where I could stand still and just sit there and allow God to show me the way. That's where that song "I'll Fly Away." You've heard the quote that says, you've come to the end of the cliff, and there's one or two things that's going to happen. You can give up, or you can learn how to fly. You can learn how to fly. How many of you today want to learn how to fly? But forget wanna. How many of you are willing to learn how to fly, because that means you got to jump off the cliff. Now, that's a scary proposition. But if you want to live by the divine wisdom and understanding of God, the Almighty, that goes by many different names, the name doesn't matter. I guarantee you right now, if you were trying to fly from A to B, you don't care if it was Delta, United, Frontier, Spirit. All you want to know is that the thing can fly. So we don't worry about what we call the vehicle that allows us to fly. We step into the movement ready to fly. Ready to fly. Now think about those moments in your life where you felt a deep sense of knowing, some kind of synchronicity, some kind of thing that said, go right, not left. Or just wait a few minutes before you leave the house. That is the good news. That is that telling you something good that just pops up through the signs and presence of the divine. Now, Wayne Dyer says it like this. He says, if prayer is you talking to God, then intuition is God talking to you. Now, we hear a lot about prayer and meditation and all these things, which is necessary to open up the conduit. But how many of us are sitting still long enough to hear their intuition that God has provided? Or if God is providing, are you listening? Or are you stuck like me, trying to work your way through A and B? And God is saying, look, there's C, D, E, F, G, and you just deal with A and B. That's what we have to begin to open our lives to. That's when we start hearing that song, Tell Me Something Good. And we're not talking to each other. We're talking to God. God, tell me something good. Guide my life. Help me move beyond whatever impediments, whatever stumbling blocks, whatever it is that keeps me from realizing my full potential. Because that's why we're here. We're here to be glorious, magnificent, divine emanations of the Most High God. Of the Most High God. Now there are many gods, whether you believe it or not. People have all kinds of gods. You know, money is some people God, this God, that God. And people can allow themselves to be nourished by anything. I'm not here to judge or tell you what to do. But I tell you this, there is a Most High God that sits over all of that. Right? That is the creator of all of that. And when you can surrender into that deep knowing, that divine spirit that's within each and every one of us awakens. It awakens. But I would submit that a lot of us we just forgot about that. Or you know, quiet as it's kept. We still dealing with an analog radio trying to tune into the signal when it's digital. Now you just 107.9 or 103.2. You just punch it in and it goes right there. It's not, some of y'all might remember that old analog radio. You had to turn the knob and sometimes you had to hold the antenna and, you know, get some aluminum foil. You did all kinds of things to get that signal clear so that you could hear something good, right? But now we don't need to do that. It's available to you if you want to, but your signal, your reception might be a little iffy. But if you got into the digital age, you can punch it right in. You can punch it right in. And when we do that, that inner guidance allows us to say, as we said last Sunday, it's a brand new day at that point. If you still, just test this out. If you still have an analog radio at home, go turn to your favorite station there and then go on the internet and get the streaming one and check out the difference. The reception is clearer. You hear, you know, instruments in the background on the digital thing that you didn't even know they were on the analog. It's, oh man, there's a piccolo in there. Where the heck that come from? That is what we mean when we say, tell me something good. The something good is to open up to God, to open up to divine intelligence, to open up to the intuition that is with each and every one of us. In Proverbs 3:5-6, it says this: trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to God, and God will make your path straight. Will make your path straight. Now, it's important to pay attention to that, because that means we have to give up our ego. We have to give up our pride. We have to give up so many things that we've allowed ourselves to be defined by. It's kind of like putting on a new suit of clothes. If I put on my jeans and then turn around and put on my suit, the clothes have changed, but I haven't changed. I could be the same rascal in jeans as I could be in a suit. But when we allow God to move forward and make our way straight by following that intuition, we can move at the speed of light. Now, Ernest Holmes says this in this regard: divine guidance is ours for the asking. The answer to any problem which can ever comfort us already exists in the center of our being. Right here in our hearts, the seat of intelligence and wisdom. Now, some people, say, well, no, it's the brain. But there's a lot of study now that says the seat of intelligence. There are a lot of ancient indigenous societies who paid attention to everything without listening to people's words. They understood that, I can go to A to B here, but if I want to get to the heart of the matter, I better go to my heart. I better check in with my sensitivity. I better check in with this intuition that God is providing by watching the birds or by watching the flowers grow. That is the good news. That is what it means. Tell me something good. Pay attention. Wake up. Look around. There's things happening. Try this. It's getting nice here in Colorado, although we had plenty of snow the other day, more than I wanted. But it's getting nice now, and you'll get a chance to go for a hike or go out in the woods. Here's something to do. Go find a nice spot, not in a clearing, but in with some trees and stuff, and just sit there and watch and listen. Now, when you first sit down, you might not hear nothing but yourself, right? Breathing but if you sit there long enough and you can get in tune, you'll hear scurrying, you'll hear a bird perk up, you'll hear the wind rustling in the leaves. That's where the divine inspiration is found, in those still small moments. When we can get out of the way and allow this breath of the divine to flow through us. But how do you cultivate this? Well, that's how you do it. You got to be quiet. You got to sit still. You got to pray. But when you do that, you got to listen. Sometimes I listen to people pray and they are so impressed with their words. That thing sounds like a poem. But is your heart in it? Have you said a prayer that's from your heart that may be stumbling and bumbling, or have you practiced a prayer that sounds good but has no heart in it, has no feeling in it? Now I can talk about that because I've done it. I've looked in the dictionary and I found the right word in the thesaurus. Oh yeah, I gotta use that word right there. That's the good one right there. The thing was as dead and as flat as a flat tire. Took me bumping all the way down the road. You ever drove on a flat tire? You might get there, but when you get there, it's a whole nother ball game. But when we can find a way to hear the good news, we don't have to worry about that. because we checked the tire before we left, right? We oh, a little pressure low and then put a little air. When we do that, we begin to awaken to the essence of who we are. We begin to awaken to that divine guidance. Albert Einstein said this. Einstein says, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and forgot the gift. We got the gift of life. We got the gift of intuition. We got the gift of the divine intelligence that created worlds. Whether it's this world, the universal world, the world of the bees, the world of the ants, those are different worlds. The way they operate and do things in there is like totally different from what we do up here. But when we look at it, when you look at the design of a beehive, or you look at the design of an ant mold, scientists have said they do things that, from our A to B shouldn't be done. According to our understanding, the bumblebee should not even be able to fly. But the bumblebee said, look, let me tell you something good. I can go out here and grab all these flowers and pollen. I can make some honey, something that's sweet, something that's nourishing, something that's healing. That's what happens when we open to the divine. Now, the question again, as always, are you ready? Are you willing? I know you're able, because God has made us all able, whether we think we are or not, whether we look to be able or not. It's about the willingness and the readiness to get to the edge of that cliff, and we're going to see if you can fly. The only thing that keeps you floating or hitting the ground is your faith, your belief, your trust in the divine inspiration of God. That's the only thing. And the way that we do that by attuning to the signs. That's where we go and we take this time in the woods and different places where we can be still. We have to tune, just like that digital radio. I don't need to plug in. God, look, I need your help right now. I'm gonna shut up. I don't need to tell you the details. You already know. I'm gonna listen. I'm just gonna listen. How many of us are listening today? Or are we too busy talking? Are we too busy judging? Are we too busy complaining? And I'm talking to myself first, because I was watching the basketball game yesterday, and I was complaining about the call that the ref made. Wasn't a good call for as I was concerned. But, I wasn't calling the game. As they say, you got to be in the game to win it. You can't sit on the sideline. You got to get in it. That's when I can tell you something good. I can say, look, we got the perfect play, 5 seconds left. I want you to jump in, pass the ball, run around, shoot, game over. Are you in the game? Are you in the game? Are you ready to hear something good? Are you ready to hear something good? So I'm going to give you 3 things to prepare you for this goodness, right? Because the goodness is everywhere. You just have to be prepared. There's a thing called intentional blindness. Look, when you get a moment, look it up on the internet. It's called intentional blindness. Depends on how they describe it. There's a little video that go with it, where we begin to see what we want to see, or we begin to see what we have been conditioned to see. And so when we can realize that happens, it gives us a wake-up call, and we can step into this idea of how do we step into our goodness. Now, the first thing that we have to do, this one's hard. It might not be the hardest, but it's hard. And that is, we have to realize that we are emanations of the Most High God. You can't be guessing about it. You can't be dilly-dallying about it. You have to believe that there's a power greater than me that has created me, and I can use it because it's in me. Made in the image and likeness of the divine, it says. That's each and every one of us. So we all got that presence. We all got that power, but we have to open up to it. We weren't sent here to wander aimlessly, to try to figure it out. Well, we do have to try to figure it out if we don't listen to that still small voice. But when we can listen to that still small voice and it allows us to connect the inner with the outer, then we can say, yes, I hear and I obey. I hear and I obey. Now, Terrence McKenna says this. If I can get that slide from McKenna, says this: you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light. You matter. You can. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. You ever had a jigsaw puzzle and you lose a couple pieces? Frustrates you to death, don't it? You start looking and sometimes you want, I'm gonna go buy a whole nother puzzle just to get that piece right there. Because I need the complete thing. I need the full immersion of this picture, this divine idea of humanity, of God, of who we are. So when we can step into that, we can allow God's love to flow through us, God's understanding, because we are from that. We are that. And we don't allow ourselves to be deluded or tricked or fall asleep as to that. Now, the second thing we need to do, this is that whole thing about still nature, is we have to cultivate a relationship. Now, I know Colorado is a great place for gardening, whether it's vegetables or fruits or flowers. If you want to have a nice garden, as our song says, you got to cultivate that garden. You can just go and throw the seeds out there and, see what happens. But if you don't cultivate it, weeds going to come in, birds might come in, rabbits might come in, but you got to cultivate. You got to till the soil. And that's what we have to do with ourselves. We have to cultivate a relationship with the divine. We have to cultivate our minds, our hearts to be still so that we can hear that intuitive, still small voice. Gordon Henley said this, that cultivate an attitude of happiness, cultivate a spirit of optimism, walk with faith, rejoice in the beauties of nature, in the goodness of those you love, in the testimony which you carry in your heart concerning things divine. Because it's in there. So it's like that Prego spaghetti sauce. Just the garlic is in there. If it's oregano, it's in there. It's already in there. The question is, are you using it? Are you cultivating, I'm eating spaghetti, no sauce. Well, the sauce is right there. Wake up. Allow God to guide us. Now that doesn't mean you give up your intelligence, because God has given us that too. But when you've used your intelligence, if you've gotten to a brick wall, it's time to sit down and surrender and allow that intuition to come in. To come in. And now, the last thing, I said, recognizing who we are was the hardest, but I wasn't truthful. I wasn't true. I tried to be, but I wasn't. But I'm going to be real truthful right now. This third thing that we need is surrender. That's the hardest. See, because you can't do the first one until you really step into this third one. You won't understand that you're part of the divine if you can't surrender, because you are not leaning unto the intelligence of God. Right? And so we wind up, we look at surrender because, again, we look at surrender as giving up. Right? But really, surrender means opening up. It means opening up to a bigger understanding, opening up to a wiser presence in life. And when that happens, it all falls into place. When we surrender, we recognize that we're part of the divine creation. We know how to cultivate that spirit within. And when we can realize that, we can sing that song, Tell Me Something Good. Because we know what it is. We understand what it is. We are living and experiencing it every day. And so if I want to show this poem on I Surrender, and I apologize if you can't read that well, but I'll read it. It says, I surrender. I am learning to live between effort and surrender. I do my best and hope for what I want, but I do not resist the direction of the wind. Through surrender, I move from outer turmoil to inner peace. By letting go of expectation and outcomes, I transform a painful experience into a positive, fruitful endeavor. When fear gets the best of me, I surrender to love. When I release my resistance to love's presence, I am able to receive what I need, what's trying to come into my life for my highest good. Now, when we can surrender, this whole thing just opens right up. So that's what we're looking to do today. So the final question is, there's a gospel song that says, I don't know what you come to do. You remember that song? I come to clap my hands. I come to stomp my feet, all in giving joy and making a joyful noise unto the Lord. That's what we all should be coming here to do once we wake up. And so I pray for us that we take these lessons of recognizing who we are and cultivating a relationship and surrendering to that power, that presence that is God.